guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Peyton Lake, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about AI crochet. And I want to be really clear that I'm not talking about the AI crochet patterns. Not talking about that. That's a totally different thing than just the image creation. You may have seen it on Pinterest, on Facebook, on Instagram, just about any social media platform that is sharing pictures, blogs, has AI crochet on there, even though they are claiming to be the patterns themselves. So in the celebration of AI image generation, I thought I would ask my lovely husband to set me up with an AI generator, and I played around with it and I created some images. I will go ahead and include those so we can see what I'm talking about. I started off pretty happy with some of the generations, but I started to wonder how possible would it be to recreate some of these images that you see into actual crochet pieces themselves. But I had some questions to ask myself. Number one, is it replicable? Can you create the crochet images into actual crochet patterns themselves? Or does it just not transfer over? Number two, is it practical? And there's a lot of things that go into the practical side of it, which I will get more into. And the third question, is it even possible? So if you saw my thumbnail, then you would already know that it is somewhat replicable. I'm gonna go ahead and insert now the picture that I chose to replicate and say hello to the beautiful crochet raccoon that I created in response to that. We're just gonna have a moment. Da, da, da. Do, 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 do. All right, so now that you know exactly which one I decided to replicate, first question, is it replicable? Yes, kind of. In general, I think the shaping for the crochet pattern that I chose is somewhat replicable, but I did have to go through numerous transformations of this pattern in order to get it right. So yes, it is. If you don't mind going through several different versions of it in order to get it, and then you end up still pulling it out and starting over again. So originally I just started out by creating a blank sheet, if you will, of paper that had the pattern that matched what the image was showing. And then I kind of had to finesse the pattern a little bit to get it more into the size that I was expecting it to be, all the while knowing that the crochet pattern that I'm creating is not a perfect replication. And that's the part where it comes in. Is it replicable? Yes and no. If you are a better crochet pattern designer than I am, you may have better luck. At the same time, time is your biggest factor here. How long does it take to create the shapes that we were looking for in the pattern? And people who have written a lot of patterns or have tested a lot of patterns might be better at this part. I'm definitely not the high-end version of crochet design. I'm at the very, very bottom tier. So is it replicable? Yes, but the shape does take a long time to figure out if you're new to that, which I kind of am. Another thing that I found really difficult while I was on this journey is obviously the color. I saw a different if I can remember, a different creator who was making patterns based on the Animal Crossing characters themselves, and they started out with a white sheet, which is something that I have done before. So I went ahead and redid it for this particular pattern, but I used markers to color in where I thought the different colors should be and ended up translating it into this. But it is difficult to get the same color variation that you're looking for, especially whenever they look so seamlessly blended. And that leads me to my next question. Is it practical to replicate the patterns generated from the AI images? And that, to me, the answer felt like no for the most part. There are some crochet images AI generated that are a lot easier than the one that I chose, but whenever it comes to really colorful palettes such as this raccoon, I ended up having to buy a color pack in order to select all of the colors that I thought would replicate it as best as possible. And even still, it doesn't look exactly like the image because the colors are not, readily available to order. They are specialized colors that seem to blend and fade very well from the image, which again, it's an AI generated image, so it is difficult to replicate that into a pattern. Another problem that I ran into is actually related to one of the biggest tells of crochet AI generation to me are the eyes. The safety eyes are so unreal looking in the images that are generated, especially in the one that I chose. At first, I thought that I would try to cut out felt pieces and sew them together in a way that would match it, and I just couldn't get it right. I tried a couple different variations before I finally decided to order these eyes online, and they are not a perfect match to what the image shows. And that presents another problem to replicating images that are not real, is that there are not going to be perfect matches for every single piece of the amigurumi, specifically the eyes. If the eyes look very detailed, you may have a fantastic designer to replicate that for you. However, we are limited by our resources, not only to purchase these things, but also to create them if we decide to make them by hand. And like I showed you, I tried to replicate this in felt and I just failed miserably. Just looking at my crochet piece, if you've never seen the picture, it looks like a beautiful piece. It looks very cute and intricate, but if you had seen the picture and this is what you had received, you may feel like I had deceived you, which I think that you would have a right to feel that way because it is a deceit. So my last question was, is it possible to replicate these images? And to that I would say yes, and again, also kind of no. They're never going to be the picture perfect fuzzy images that you see. The stitches aren't going to look exactly like they do in the photos because the stitches in the photos aren't real stitches. And when you look closely at amigurumi, you're going to see very detailed stitches that are standing out to you. Another problem that I ran into while trying to replicate the picture versus obviously the piece was just how unrealistic some of the stitches that should be stitches look from the photo. Just that these sewn in pieces that don't look sewn in, first of all, they don't look sewn in the picture that you see. They just look like they're a part of the piece, and that's part of the AI generator. It's blending everything together because obviously it's just a picture replication of what it assumes crochet should be. It's not actual designers designing these so that you see all these individual stitches. And I ended up having to create the eyes separate because it just wasn't possible to create the look without creating additional pieces to sew onto the pattern. So it is possible to create something that looks similar, but it is not possible to create something that looks identical. And that leads me to kind of where I'm at with the AI crochet image generation. I find it very intriguing. I find it very exciting and very fun to play with and even to use as inspiration for creating your crochet pieces. However, I did come across some creators on Pinterest who, clicking on the picture that I know is AI generated just by the way that the stitches look, the way that it looks too perfect, the eyes just don't look quite right. A lot of times the mouth looks a little too drawn on versus actual stitched on. I clicked on these images and it funneled me to either blogs where they're trying to get you onto their blogs so that you can follow any of their crochet patterns. I will insert one of those here. Clicked on the picture, scroll, and it is not the image that you're seeing that they are replicating into the crochet piece, obviously, because that's an AI generation. These are their versions, which do not match the original. And then I found another, and you can find many more actually on Etsy, where they're using AI crochet generated images as marketing ploys for people to purchase their patterns. And I admit that these designers have beautiful talent creating a crochet pattern just like I have. They are beautiful patterns in themselves. They are using the AI generated crochet images to sell the pattern. It is the first picture that they're using, your clickbait essentially. And when you click over a couple of slides, you will soon realize it is not in fact the same pattern. And that's because the pattern is made up just like this. I understand that there is a beautiful appeal to the AI generated images. However, it is not real. And I guess that's where I draw the line on using AI crochet. And whenever I look at the following pictures for the designs, I just find them very beautiful. And I don't understand why people are using AI generated images to sell crochet patterns when they could just, use their actual patterns to sell their crochet patterns. Like, that makes the most sense to me. I'd love to know what you guys think, if you've come across these, how often you notice them. I know that whenever I'm scrolling on Facebook, I see a lot of people in the comments, AI generated, AI. There are a lot of people that are catching on, just like but there are some people who are fooled if you have an untrained eye to crochet patterns, projects, you name it. If you aren't familiar with it, then you don't know what to look for. And I admit that there are AI generated images that just, wow, they look very incredible to me and they look very believable. So it definitely opens up a whole can of worms of, are you really getting what you pay for when it comes to patterns at this point? But I just find it so intriguing. I will definitely be using AI crochet generated images if I feel like I need the help on designing something fanciful. I do think it's fun in that way that artists can use it as a tool to help broaden their creativity and further it, rather than using it to help make more sales, which I don't unfortunately like about the AI generation. But thanks so much for watching this video, and I hope to see you in another soon. Bye!